Man, it's getting early late. Wait, it's getting late early for some teams this year. 0-2, I told you last week. You didn't want to be here. Some teams that their season is getting real late. Really early. Is it time to break the glass in case of an emergency? Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 92nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. Remember, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. You already know what that means. All right. That means it's going to be a social media maneuver Wednesday where you guys can take over the show. We're going to have a lot of viewer participation today. So if you're out there, make sure, first and foremost, like this video, okay? Then hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And then if you want to comment, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. Remember, if you want to jump to the front of the line, the best way to do that is via the super chat. But above all else, use the hashtag LouieTLive. If it's pertinent, now don't type some garbage in. Not going to read it, okay? But if you want your comment read, go ahead, start lining them up, and we'll start knocking them down one by one here on the Wednesday edition of the pod. Now, before we get started, I got some non sequitur stuff for y'all. And, you know, I do this from time to time. I go off on a tangent. But I told you guys recently that I just moved up north, okay, towards Northern Virginia, and finally left the 757 for the first time in my life. So, you know, it was a little bit different for me. It was a little bit of a transitional period. And I'm kind of adjusting quite nicely. I feel like I'm finally getting into a comfort zone, and, you know, things are starting to settle in for us. And I was outside the other day, and I thought I was losing my damn mind. And I need your help with this because I thought I was tripping. So I go outside. Me and my son are outside, and he's running down the sidewalk. And so I'm walking behind him. And I look to my right, and I see a black squirrel. Have you ever seen a black squirrel before? And I like, wait. And I had on my sunglasses. And the sunglasses are of a dark black tint. So I was like, maybe my sunglasses they got me tripping. So I take the sunglasses off, and he runs under the car. And I'm like, was that squirrel really black? I'm like, nah, that squirrel couldn't have been black. Am I seeing things? I put the glasses back on. He comes from under the car. So I take my glasses back off. And sure enough, this damn squirrel is black. I'm like, is this a squirrel or is this a skunk? Like, are baby skunks around? And do they have the white stripe even if you're a baby, or do you get that as an adult? Like, am I tripping? Is there such thing as a black squirrel? So then I pull out my phone. I'm like, I got to record this. And he runs under the car again, and he doesn't come out this time. So I couldn't get a picture of him. So I'm like, man, was I tripping, or was that really a black squirrel? So I go on about my business. I said, I got to talk about this on the pod, but I forgot. So then I go to pick my son up from daycare the other day. And what do I see? Another black, it might have been the same one, black squirrel. I'm like, yo, I am not tripping this time. This is a black squirrel. All right. It looks just like a squirrel. It moves just like a squirrel. I'm like, this has to be a squirrel. I've never seen a black squirrel in my life before. I'm like, I didn't even know this existed. So I said, man, I got to be tripping. So I go and I look it up, because these types of things drive me nuts, first and foremost. I know you guys are like, what the hell are we doing? Are we talking about squirrels? Yes, we're talking about a damn squirrel, okay? It was black, okay? I'm sorry. If you saw a red squirrel, you'd be tripping too. So I look it up on Google, and it turns out that there is this rare genetic defect with squirrels in the Northern Virginia area. And so you're likely to see, and there are only like 10,000 black squirrels in the world. And a lot of them seem to exist in Northern Virginia. So what a rare occurrence that is. For me to see a black squirrel, it was crazy. If I can get a picture of it or some video, I'm going to upload it. If I run into this guy again, I'm going to try to get him on film for you guys because I know I wasn't tripping. And I'm glad Google could confirm what my eyes saw because for a second there, and you know, my girl was like, well, maybe it was a skunk, a baby skunk or something. So I was like, maybe I was tripping, but I'm like, I know a squirrel when I see a squirrel, man. That wasn't no damn skunk. That looked like a squirrel. And I was right. Anyway, and so see, I see some of y'all saying, look, they're all over in PG County. As someone said, definitely see a black squirrel. I see them all the time in Alexandria. So I know I'm not tripping now. I feel a lot better. But, you know, me coming from the 757, I've never seen, all we had were gray squirrels. Okay, that's it. We didn't do black squirrels. Never seen one in my life. So I guess the further north you go, and someone else, Mike, said, Northeast Iowa, I live in a small town and most of the squirrels are solid black. Wow. See, so this is news to me. Again, this is what happens when you're sheltered and you don't get outside of your own little area that you grow up in. You know, you don't go outside and you don't explore. You don't know these things. I've been exposed to black squirrels. So life has changed for me forever because I've seen a black squirrel now. So anyway, I thank you guys for your participation. And remember, if you want to comment, use the hashtag LouieTLive in the comment section. So before we get to the social media maneuvers for today, you know what we got to do. Don't act brand new. I hate when you guys act brand new like you don't already know. You already know what we got to do. We got to drop this gem on your melon. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So we talked about 0-1 teams and the desperation that goes into 2 0-1 teams squaring off. And we saw desperation from Dallas and Atlanta in Big D, as Dallas has one of the most improbable comebacks we've ever seen in this league, coming from 20 down after one quarter, coming from 19 down after the halftime break, coming from double digits down after 3 quarters, and coming from 10 or 9 down with less than a minute to go in the ball game. It was a crazy occurrence, but it happened. Desperation set in for the Cowboys. They didn't want to go down 0-2 and have to go to Seattle the following week. All right, staring an 0-3 deficit in the face. So desperation set in. They found a way to get it done. But for some teams, like those same Atlanta Falcons, the Houston Texans, and others, not so lucky for them. And so what I want to know, what we're going to do today on the gem dropping session is we're going to play a little game called Break in Case of an Emergency. And I need your help to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a team, because you guys already know how I feel about all these teams. I've given you I haven't changed. Maybe on 1 or 2 of these teams, I may have changed my perspective on them after seeing how they performed early in the season. But for the most part, how I felt going into the season is how I still feel 2 weeks in. But I want to ask you guys, is it time to break the glass in case of an emergency for these teams? Or is it still time for them to turn things around? No need to panic yet. Don't get the mallet. Don't break the glass quite yet. They're fine. Or, no, go ahead and shatter that glass. All right? It's time to go ahead and break that glass because it's an emergency for these teams. So we're going to start with the Houston Texans. All right? The Texans are 0-2. And this is a team that I still think is ultimately going to find a way to win the AFC South. Now, it's getting very late early for the Texans because the Titans are 2-0 and they look like a good football team. The Jaguars aren't messing around and they've got a chance to go to 2-1 because they've got the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football at home. And also the Indianapolis Colts, who I thought was going to be a playoff team this year, they're 1-1 and they're starting to right the ship in Indianapolis. So you can't afford any more slip-ups if you're the Houston Texans. And when I look at the Texans, I said, look, the schedule makers didn't do them any favors. Like, that was brutal how they started off the season. You know, at Kansas City on ring night, that was impossible. Anybody going in there, that was, you were being set up for failure in week 1. And then if that wasn't bad enough, they said, hey, we're going to give you a home game. Unfortunately, though, it's going to be Baltimore week 2. Sorry. Like, you're asking for me right off the bat, the two best teams in the conference, you're giving them to me weeks 1 and 2 right out of the gate with no preseason games, and you're telling me, hey, go have at it. So they were set up for 0-2, okay? So that's why I'm not really down on the Texans, because their 0-2 is the kind of 0-2 where you look up and you say, all right, they're going to be okay. They didn't have a chance because the NFL set them up to fail. However, what I want to do is I want to look at their schedule, and I want to talk about what they have coming up, and do you think they can rebound, or do you think this is going to be a season in which the Houston Texans need to break the glass in case of an emergency? So the Texans, let's pull up their schedule quickly and see who they have in the next, let's call it the next 4 or 5 weeks, who they have on the docket. So the Texans have the Steelers this week on the road, okay, at the Steelers. That's a tough one, but it's one they're capable of going and getting. Now, I haven't been overly impressed with the Steelers in the first 2 weeks. And so that's a winnable football game. They can't afford to drop to 0-3. So they got the Steelers. Then they have the Vikings at home in week number 4. Then they have the Jaguars at home in week number 5. Then they turn around and they have the Titans on the road in week number 6. And then that's followed up with at home against the Packers in week 7. It's not looking good. I'm not going to lie to you. They could easily go. And just looking at the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, if they can find a way to go 3-2 in that stretch, that would put them at 3-4 on the season. And after a 0-2 start, to get to 3-4, you'd feel really good with the schedule that I just ran off to you. If they could somehow get to 4-1 through that stretch, now you're over 500 at 4-3, and you're right back in the thick of things in the AFC North. However, if you somehow stumble through that stretch and go 2-3, now you're 2-5, and at that point, you're probably dead and buried. Especially with the way their division. Normally, their division is a 9-win, 10-win max division. Well, with Tennessee getting off to a 2-0 start, with Jacksonville looking vastly improved, and Indianapolis, I think, being a team that's going to contend for the division crown as well this season, I don't know if the margin for error is as great as it's been in the past. So what says you? If you are out there, tell me. Use the hashtag LouieTLive. Break in case of an emergency for the Houston Texans? Or are they going to be just fine and no need to panic right now? So I want to hear from you guys. You guys tell me if it's time for the Texans to break in case of an emergency. They need to go ahead and shatter that glass. Let's see. My man Nick Riley says Texans have nothing outside of Watson and Bill O'Brien is beyond trash. I'm not feeling them at all, but you can count out on. He said you can't count out Watson. Don't see them winning the AFC South though. So he's not giving up on them. Neither am I. Captain Spartan 04 says nothing much to talk about with my Steelers, rather than kind of scared with the Texans and Eagles coming up. Both teams are desperate for wins, and they could easily catch us slipping. I think the Texans, I'm not so sure about the Eagles. We'll find out here shortly. But Andres Columbus says they threw away their glass breaker when they traded DeAndre Hopkins. You might be right. That might have been the straw that broke the camel's back and ultimately broke that glass. And it might be past an emergency for the Texans. Let's get to the next team up. And it's the Minnesota Vikings. They're 0-2 right now, and it's not pretty. And I forecasted this, so this isn't a surprise to me. I don't think there's any glass that they can break to save them this season. They violated a code last year. And anytime you have a code violation of the importance of the Vikings that they had last year, you're going to pay for that. The football gods are going to come to collect. And so they didn't stand a chance this year. They were in over their heads. They had a mass exodus in the offseason. They've had injuries to start. I just didn't see the Vikings, and that was before the injuries took effect. I just didn't see the Vikings being a good team this year. And so at 0-2, here are the next 5 games, and it's it could go from bad to worse really quick for the Minnesota Vikings. Check this out. They're home for Tennessee this week. Then they're at Houston. We just talked about the Texans. They'll be desperate for a win in 2 weeks, especially if they don't get one against Pittsburgh in week number 3. Then they're at Seattle on Sunday Night Football. Ouch. Then you come back home for Atlanta, who, despite their 0-2 start, they're scoring points. At least they're doing that. And then they go on a bye, and guess what they do when they come off the bye? They go to Green Bay. They go to Green Bay. They're going to get swept by the Packers. That doesn't look well at all. And I can tell you right now, best case scenario in that situation is that you win your 2 home games. I can't see them going on the road and winning at Houston, Seattle, or Green Bay. Best case scenario is over the next 5 games, they come out of that stretch at 2-3. You're 2-5. In the way that the NFC is set up, and specifically their division, with the Packers more likely than not running away. And I told you, I thought that division was going to get 2 teams in, Chicago and Green Bay, with the Bears getting off to a 2-0 start. And it hasn't been the most impressive 2-0 start, but it's 2-0 nonetheless. I can see the Vikings being left for dead after, the first half of the season. They'll be at week 8. They could easily be 2-5 on the season. What do you think about the Minnesota Vikings? Breaking in case of an emergency, or can they battle back? Their head coach has been a guy that has found ways to win games throughout his career. And so he just got an extension, did Mike Zimmer, him and his general manager, Rick Spielman. Do you think they're going to find a way to dig themselves up out of this hole? Or is it time to break that glass? It's an emergency in 2020. Legacy says for the Texans, it's time for them to break the glass, he says. The O-line is trash. Fuller is out again, and the defense has always been suspect. I actually thought the defense played pretty well versus Baltimore this past week. But Fuller is out as always. We know that was going to happen. I told you before the season started, that's not an if, it's a when proposition. And the O-line is a little suspect yet again. We talked about that after the week 1 loss to the Chiefs. Nick Riley says, man, we're on life alert. He says, forget breaking the glass. Trading Diggs was the stupidest shit of all time. We haven't had an O-line since 2009, and we can't get any pressure. Cornerbacks are way too young. These were the problems that I highlighted with the Vikings going into the season, why I thought they would only win 8 games this season. I said they got a young secondary. Even though they traded for Yannick Ngakoue, they're not getting pressure, and that's really because Danielle Hunter has started out the season banged up. And if you're not getting pressure, you're leaving those young corners out to dry. And then again, I talked about the offense. I said, look, man, it makes a world of difference when you've got a number 1 wide receiver. And I think Justin Jefferson is actually going to be really good for them. But, it takes time for rookies to come into the league and have an impact, especially at the receiver position. Not everybody's going to step in and automatically come in and light it up. And so, they've got a lot of things to overcome. And one thing that we've always said about, I've told you guys about Kirk Cousins. He does not perform well under duress. 3 interceptions on Sunday. And look, if you watch the game, you understand the context of those 3 picks. One was a Hail Mary before halftime, but he was not good in that football game. And he's 2 sacks in the end zone, 2 safeties in the first 2 weeks. That's crazy. They're not playing well. They don't have a good offensive line. They're going to struggle this season, I believe. But that doesn't look good. That upcoming schedule and 0-2 to start doesn't bode well for the Minnesota Vikings. Let's see. I got a super chat here from Jeremy Bramlett. Thank you for the super chat, Jeremy. Greatly appreciate you. Who says, what's up, Lou? I'm a Cowboys fan, but I like your channel. You always keep it real. Just wanted to show some respect. I appreciate that. Really do, Jeremy. And all I do is keep it a buck with you guys. That's all I know how to do. Whether I love your team, hate your team, it doesn't matter. I respect your squad. And so I'm going to make sure I show that level of respect. And the Cowboys, I've talked about their talent. They found a way to win. We'll talk about them a little bit later on in the show, I have a feeling. But once again, thank you for that super chat, Jeremy Bramlett. Nick Riley says, man, Kirk has got to get off the goddamn first read to Thielen. He's got guys open, holding on to the ball too damn long, and he refuses to get the tight end involved. That's what happens when you don't trust any of your guys. You lock in on one receiver, and that's how you get sacked. And that's part of the reason he's getting safeties and things of that nature. He's only got one guy that he trusts right now, and he's got to open up and give other guys opportunities. I know this. Irv Smith had a tough go of it, had a couple of drops. And when guys do that, it forces you to go back to your initial thought of, man, I can only trust one guy. So he's going to have to spread that football around. Captain Spartan says, don't even know what the Vikings need to draft in terms of the draft. He said, besides offensive line help, as usual, probably that Oregon left tackle and Wyatt Davis, the Ohio State guard, to replace Elflein. We'll see what happens there. But Nick says, we're legit about to start 0-6, maybe 0-7. We have no chance in hell. Kirk's got to go, bro. It's Trevor Lawrence time. This team makes me flat out sick and tired of this shit. I can tell you this much. You just gave Kirk an extension. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So anyhow, I think a lot of you feel the same way I do. It's time to break that glass. It's an emergency in Minnesota. What about the Philadelphia Eagles? Who saw this coming? 0-2 to start the season off. You know, I thought they were going to lose to Washington in week 1. I had predicted that when the schedule first came out. But I didn't think they were going to lose to the Rams in week number 2. Now, the Rams look really good. And I told you this was going to be a bounce back year for Sean McVay and company. And they look like they're back to their old tricks. But the thing that's been so surprising about the Eagles has been a slow start on the offensive side of the football. They've been outscored 64-36 this season in their first 2 contests, and they're 0-2, and the offense just looks dreadful. And probably the biggest thing that has been alarming for the Philadelphia Eagles is the fact that Carson Wentz looks like he's regressed a bit. He looks like he's going in the opposite direction, and it's amazing. Doug Peterson, and this is never good when your coach does this. He was asked at his press conference on Monday, the day after the loss 37-19 to the Los Angeles Rams. He said, why do you feel like Carson Wentz, he has regressed? It seems like he's regressed. Why do you feel that is? I don't know. Ouch. You would hope your coach would say, he hasn't regressed. There's just a lot of things going on. You know, there are different ways to answer that question. And he just said, look, I don't know, man. You got me. I want to know the same thing. What the hell's going on? So a lot wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Here's their next 5 contests, okay? Home for Cincinnati. You'd like to think that they can get a win. I don't know, though. They just put up 30 on the road at Cleveland. The Eagles haven't sniffed 20 points this season yet, okay? So I don't know. You know, Cincinnati's going to beat somebody. Not Philadelphia, right? But you'd like to think they're going to get off the schneid in week 3, right? At San Francisco. That's interesting with all the injuries going on in San Francisco right now. We'll talk about them in a second. At Pittsburgh. That's interesting. I want to see what the Steelers do over the next 2 weeks. That'll tell me a lot about what the Steelers are and what they'll be able to do come week 5. Versus Baltimore at home, that doesn't look good at all. And home for the Giants on a Thursday night. That's a winnable game. So when I look at this stretch, I could easily see the Eagles snapping out of whatever funk they started this season in and winning 4 out of these 5 games. I could see that easily happening. And then you look up and they're 4-3 and they're right back in the mix in the NFC East. You know, and that's something else you have to consider. When you talk about breaking the glass and it's an emergency, you have to consider all of the moving parts around that team. And no part is bigger than the division that they reside in. Because if they are in a division that could end up being an 8-9 game winner, that also gives them more opportunities to get off the schneid and figure it out. And even if you don't figure it out right away, and let's say they drop to 0-3 before running off 3 straight and getting back to 3-3, you have a bigger margin for error. It's a lot wider of a margin for error if your division isn't great. And the NFC East isn't great. You know, so while the Eagles are 0-2, the Cowboys are the only legitimate team that you look at and say, hey, they probably are going to win double-digit games this season. They're the only team that looks the part. And we're not even sure about the Cowboys right now. You know, their defense has not been impressive. They gave up 39 and they turned it over a bunch in week 2 and should have lost that football game. But when I look at this schedule, they can beat Cincinnati. They could go to San Francisco and beat the 49ers. Hell, Arizona did it. I get it. That's family business, but they're capable of getting hot and going and beating San Francisco. I don't know if they're going to go to Pittsburgh and win. That's a doable situation, but I don't know if they're going to. They're not beating Baltimore, I don't think, at home, but they can beat the Giants on Thursday night, and that puts you at 3-2 in that stretch and 3-4 in the season. And just like that, the Cowboys at that point might be 4-2, and you might be right back in the mix. So, who's to say what happens with this Eagles team? I'm not willing to break the glass yet. I'm not willing to break the glass. What says you? Are the Eagles in a position where they need to get the mallet, break the glass because this is an emergency? Let's see what you guys have to say about the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's see. I don't see any comments regarding the Eagles. I think that they shouldn't break the glass, personally, myself. And so if I were the Philadelphia Eagles, I wouldn't panic quite yet. You lose to Cincinnati and you're past breaking the glass. You're looking to go and find the panic button, and you're looking to go hide in the panic room because you're in serious trouble if you can't beat the Cincinnati Bengals at home. You get to the next team, and it's the Atlanta Falcons. Man, oh man. 0-2 after, not the easiest start to the season. Home for Seattle. I thought that was a game you could have stolen. But Russell Wilson is playing out of his gourd right now. So I get it. But then the Cowboys gift wrapped a game for you. And this is why I struggle with the Falcons, because the Cowboys went out of their way to be generous on Sunday. And you refused to take that gift that they were giving. And this felt so Super Bowl-ish. Did this loss. This one stung. I mean, I looked in the eyes of a broken man as he ran off the field in head coach Dan Quinn. A guy that was searching for answers after another huge blown lead. And this one stung. I mean, I looked at a guy that had a cold stare in his eyes and he looked lost running off that field. A guy that I imagine was probably at a loss for words with his team in the locker room. Because what do you say to a team that was up 20-0 at the end of one, up 19 at 29-10 at halftime, and up big after 3, and up 9 with less than a minute to go in the game and finds a way to lose? What do you say to that team in the locker room? Obviously, you got a turnaround the following week and find a way to get it done at home in a very winnable situation versus the Bears, but they're 2-0, and they've won close games, and they've found a way to get it done in ways that you haven't found a way to get it done. I looked at this Falcons football team, and the thing that I thought they were going to be better at this year, they've struggled at mightily. And I thought they were going to be better defensively. So they got Dante Fowler Jr. They drafted the corner A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. They got Isaiah Oliver on the other side, and he's coming along. And you're getting Keanu Neal back, and Deion Jones is a stud. Grady Jarrett is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. You got stuff. You drafted Marlon Davidson to pair with him on the defensive line. You got stuff. So I said, this defense is going to be better. And through the first 2 weeks of the season, you've surrendered 78 points. 78 points. You're giving up an average of 39 points a game over the first 2 weeks of the season. That's not a winning formula. The only team to have given up more to start off the season to this point, well, I shouldn't say that because I'm thinking of the Packers and what they've scored. I don't know if many teams have given up that many points this season. I mean, that's an astronomical amount that we're staring at. And I think the team that may have you is the Cleveland Browns. They gave up 38 in week 1. They gave up another 30. But that's 68, if my math serves me correct. So you still got them beat. That's the thing that has me worried about them, is they can score with anybody. I don't worry about their offense. Matt Ryan threw for over 400 yards, even though some of that was in garbage time in week 1. He followed that up with another great performance in week 2. Calvin Ridley seems to be poised to be taking over that role as the best number 2 wide receiver in football. He's ready to take that mantle over. Julio! He was a little banged up, as usual. You know, Julio's usually banged up by week 5 or 6, and then is banged up for the remainder of the year, but he guts through it. Had a big drop in this game, but he's still Julio Jones. We saw that in week 1. He went nuts against the Seattle Seahawks. The offense is there, is what I'm essentially saying to you. I don't worry about it. I love the fit of Hayden Hurst. The defense is what scares me. And I don't know if you have to worry about it necessarily in week number 3 against Chicago. They don't score a bunch of points. But then after that, what happens when you go on the road on a Monday night to Green Bay? They're scoring a bunch of points. They've scored 85 points in 2 weeks. You want some of that? Carolina the following week, you should be able to take care of Carolina. You think. That's family business, though, man. I stay out of that. That's not my family business. I stay out of that. Then you're at Minnesota. That could be ugly because we could be staring at a 1-4 Minnesota team and a 1-4 Atlanta team. Both teams on the brink of desperation, on the brink of their season teetering to the point of no return at that point of the season. That could be a game for essentially elimination purposes right there. And then you're home for Detroit. I look at this schedule and I say, why can't you win 4 out of these 5 games? Seriously, why can't you beat Chicago? Why can't you beat Carolina? Why can't you beat Minnesota? Why can't you beat Detroit? I see you coming out of this stretch at 4-3. I'm not willing to break the glass on Atlanta right now. I'm not. You got to win in week 3 against Chicago at home, though. That is a must. That's not optional. This is like training day. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, if you do not win this game, we have a problem. Okay? This is not up for debate. You have to beat Chicago in week 3. I'm not willing to break the glass. You're not in emergency mode quite yet. You lose to Chicago, and the glass is officially broken, and we could be talking about picking up shards of that glass and looking to cut Coach Gus. I was about to call him Gus Bradley. Your head coach. I had a brain fart. He'll come to me. Dan Quinn. And right behind him may not be too far the GM Thomas Dimitroff either. Let's see what you guys have to say. I told you about those stinking ass uniforms. I'm telling you, it's the uniforms. It's the uniforms. I told you guys, don't switch what was already one of the best unis in the league. And you went to some garbage and you're paying for it right now. Let's see what anybody has to say out there. And I saw some comments earlier about the Falcons. Let's see. Iron Rain says, or Sergeant Spooner says, Dallas had an improbable win. They were playing the Falcons. We always find a way to lose. Ha ha. I thought that they could come back. I didn't think they were going to win the game, though. I knew it wasn't over. And I had said that on Twitter during the game. It's not over. But I didn't think they were going to come back and win. Iron Rain says, while watching the game, I knew my Falcons would find a way to lose the game. It's a shame when you feel that way as a fan, but your team preconditions you to feel the way that you feel. Let's see. Iron Rain says, it's time for the Falcons to break the glass. Our defense is awful and we can't stop a running nose. Dan Quinn is done. You might be right. Sergeant Spooner said Dan Quinn should have been gone this year along with Cotter, their offensive coordinator. Iron Rain says, I can't argue with that. How do you call a timeout and still not know to jump on an onside kick? I just don't understand how those guys squatted around the ball. We talked about that on Monday. I don't need to rehash that, but that was rough watching that one. Sergeant Spooner says, sad because Matt Ryan had a hell of a game and sustained critical drives. That he did. It was a shame. You know, and even one of those drives where Julio drops the football should have been a touchdown. He just kept getting them in positions, and they just weren't able to do it. Iron Rain says, Matt Ryan is playing fine, but our defense is abysmal. Must be coaching. Sergeant Spooner says the Falcons need to clean house and do a total rebuild from personnel standpoint. Who do you think the Falcons should pursue as a head coach? Do you think they could lure Lincoln Riley to the NFL? I don't know if anybody's going to be able to get him from that post at Oklahoma. It'd have to be the right job. I thought Dallas was the one. And being that he didn't take the Cowboys job, and maybe that had something to do with Jerry Jones. No, I don't think any guy in his right mind that has a comfy, cozy college job like Lincoln Riley does wants to leave that post to go and be micromanaged by Jerry Jones. I wouldn't want to do that. So I don't know. Maybe that Atlanta job is just appetizing enough where he'll have enough power and control, and he's got enough talent to come in and win right away. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. Captain Spartan says the Falcons deserve to go 0-2 with those uniforms. Thank you, Captain Spartan. Thank you. We're on the same page. He says the Falcons GM going to be a great analyst on NFL Network. Hopefully he replaces Charlie or Bill Polian on TV. He is a well-spoken guy. I do like Thomas Dimitroff. Nick Riley says the Falcons are closer to rebuilding than doing anything else. They do everything possible to blow a lead. That special teams coach needs to be fired ASAP. Sergeant Spooner says, I actually like the black uniforms. The matte black helmets are dope. Captain Spartan says, here soon, likely next year, Julio will probably be traded and the torch will be passed to Calvin Ridley. I don't know if he is a number one wide receiver or not. We will see. And then finally, I got one more team for you guys. And this is an interesting one. At 1-1, are the San Francisco 49ers in Bice territory? Are they in Bice territory? Break in case of an emergency territory. Should they be contemplating breaking the glass at 1-1? Hear me out. All right. Here's a team with a rash of injuries, and I don't know if anyone's been hit harder with the injury bug than this 49ers football team. I know the Chargers are like, hey, wait a minute. You know how this goes. Don't talk to me about injuries. I'm just saying, hear me out. Garoppolo, they're saying his injury is not as bad as they thought initially. He's not playing this week, though. Okay? He could be out multiple weeks. He may be back next week. I don't think he's playing this week. So you're not going to have your starting quarterback. Nick Bosa gone for the season. So is Solomon Thomas. So two of your better defensive linemen done for the season. D Ford, who's supposed to be a guy that you're going to rely on because of the injury to Nick Bosa, he's out for an extended period of time. Raheem Mostert, who has been the best thing smoking for this team to start the season, is going to miss some time with an injury. Tevin Coleman is a guy that you think, okay, with no Raheem Mostert, Coleman's going to have to step up. Well, he's banged up and going to miss some significant time. Dick Sherman missed this Jets game and probably going to miss at least two more because he was placed on IR. Don't know exactly when he'll be back. And they signed Ziggy Ansah to come in and try to give them some depth along the defensive line. Not to mention, they started off the season without Deebo Samuel. Don't know exactly when he's going to return. They just got Brandon Ayuk back from injury in week number 2. This is a team that's battered and bruised. Sitting here at 1-1, and remember, I told you, when you talk about Bice situations, breaking the glass in case of an emergency, when we talk about break in case of an emergency, you also have to consider all of the circumstances surrounding that team. And when you talk about the 49ers, you have to look at what is the toughest division in all of football. And I told you guys it was going to be this way before the season started. Arizona's 2-0. Los Angeles Rams are 2-0. And the Seattle Seahawks, who I think is the best team in the NFC right now, even though they can't stop anybody defensively, they're 2-0 as well. So the 49ers don't have a massive margin for error. Their division is not playing any games, and they already lost a home game to Arizona. So their division record is already 0-1 on the season, and they've got more losses in the division to come. And it's much easier to go out there and perform when you're the hunter, like they were last year. Now you're the hunted. Everybody wants what you had a season ago. They want the NFC West crown. They want to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Everyone's gunning for you. They haven't really had a challenge like this. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the next 3 games, they should be able to survive. At the Giants, they should be able to win without Jimmy Garoppolo, okay? Nick Mullins can get the job done against the Giants, okay? Then they're home for Philadelphia. You might have Garoppolo back for that game. And if so, that's good. You're probably going to need him. Philly will be desperate in that game. And then you're home for Miami. Those are winnable games, okay? So even with all these injuries, the next 3 are very winnable games. You could win all 3 of those conceivably and get to 4-1. Here's where shit gets real. Okay, that was preseason. That was practice right there. Those 3 games. Here's where shit gets real for the 49ers. And this is when we find out, are y'all really about that life this year or not? Check out these 5 games after these next 3. So you're talking about week 6 through week number 11. Check out these 5 games. Home for the Rams on Sunday Night Football. At New England the following week. At Seattle the week after that. Home for Green Bay on Thursday Night Football. At New Orleans the week after that. If that's not big boy football at its finest, I don't know what is. They could be in some trouble if they don't get some of these guys back healthy before that stretch, and they don't get to the kind of football that we're accustomed to seeing them play. They could be in trouble. And remember, keep in mind, it's not just them that you have to consider. You got to consider all the moving parts around them, specifically that division. When you look up and everyone, you're 1-1 and you're at the bottom of the division because everyone is 2-0, that says a lot about how sturdy and difficult that division is going to be to navigate this season. Should the 49ers be in Bice mode? What do you guys say? Let's take a couple comments there. And then we'll move on. Captain Spartan says 49ers might just want to stick to picking in the top 10. Not saying last year was a fluke, but they're going to keep picking there. Even if they struggle this year, I don't think they end up with a top 10 pick. I don't see that. Iron Rain says, considering their division that they're in, San Francisco needs to break the glass. I think that's the thing that has me a little worried about the 49ers is the fact that their division is so good that they could be in a bit of trouble if they don't get healthy and start playing some really good football. Nick Riley says, imagine how scary the 49ers could be if they end up getting one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. I really don't think they're interested in the quarterback position. I really don't. I think they like Jimmy Garoppolo. I like Jimmy Garoppolo, you know? And a lot of people keep forgetting that Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't played a ton of football in this league. He's still wet behind the ears. Now, he's getting the experience that he needs. He played all season last year, but that was his first full season as a starter in this league. So I think they like Jimmy Garoppolo, and they paid him a boatload of money, too. So I don't see them investing in the quarterback position in the foreseeable future. We'll see. He's got to stay healthy, though. That's something he hasn't been able to do. So with that being said, I'm not breaking the glass for the 49ers, but that's a situation worth keeping an eye on because that division is so loaded. Let's move on to social media maneuvers. And let's look at some comments. I'm going to take a couple comments at the top because I started off the show talking about black squirrels, and a couple of you guys chimed in a little bit after I moved on, and so I do want to go back and clean up a couple of those. Holy Samurai in Jerusalem says, have you ever seen an albino squirrel? I have not. I don't even know if that's a real thing or if you're just trolling me right now. But after seeing a black squirrel, I'm liable to believe that there are red squirrels, white squirrels, and blue squirrels out there as well. I mean, the black squirrel just blew my mind. So M Loyal Gaming says, I've seen a white one before. Well, again, I don't know, man. I don't know what to believe anymore. My mind has been blown. Nick Riley says, I've seen a couple of black squirrels, also seen a red one up in Vermont. See, and I was just joking when I said a red one. This is crazy. Estigo says, I've seen a few before in Fairfax County. So that makes sense. Northern Virginia, sort of where I am, closer to, DC, up in that area. That's where they're supposed to be very prevalent. So Jay Breadman says, white squirrels in South Carolina. That's crazy. I again, life-changing moment seeing a black squirrel, and now I'm finding out, my mind is being blown right now that there are white and red squirrels. What is going on out there? And Anyway, Iron Rain says 757 is a lot of things, but Northern Virginia is not one of them. Ho, we get black squirrels in Hampton Roads. I ain't seen none of them, and I lived there my entire life. Okay, you tell me where you seen a black squirrel at. You ain't seen one in Norfolk. That's for damn sure. They ain't in Virginia Beach. Maybe you saw one in Suffolk somewhere. You damn sure ain't see one in Norfolk or Virginia Beach. All right, I didn't see any in Hampton, Newport News, Williamsburg, or any of those damn places. So you tell me where. I don't think there are any in Chesapeake either. You tell me where you saw a damn black squirrel at. And who you calling a hoe? Oh man, I love you, guy. I love you, man. Timothy Llewellyn says, hey, they're all over DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I believe it, because like I said, when I looked it up on Google, they said they were in Northern Virginia. So I think they're in the DMV area. Again, I just moved up here, so this is all news to me. Anyhow, let's run through some of these comments, the ones that we haven't knocked down already. So again, if you're out there, you want your comment read, the best way to do so is to super chat. But also, even if you're not super chatting, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read. Any question pertinent about any team or any topic in the National Football League, I'm open for business. Fire away. That's what we do here on the pod on Wednesdays. So use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. That being said, Nick Riley says, bro, we got to be the worst team in the league. We can't do a lick of anything. I don't think you're the worst team in the league. I think that distinction belongs to the New York Jets. Nick Riley says, I know it's only week 2, but someone said Becton would be the best tackle in the draft. Not sure who it was. Do you remember? All this man does is put grown men on their asses. Look, I don't know who that guy was. He's probably a really smart guy, though. And I just talked about Mekhi Becton as an honorable mention on the rookie wall this week. Remember, if you want that exclusive content, Patreon is the way to get it. NFL's peak performers, the rookie wall, Washington film breakdown, all of that is on Patreon. Don't miss out. But I just talked about Mekhi Becton as an honorable mention. We don't talk enough about offensive linemen because the numbers that they put up aren't tangible. All right. They don't have stats that we can actually go and look at. Oh, man, even though you can find the pancakes stat, like that's not a stat that we're going to look. Oh, man, this guy had 7 pancakes this week. He had 18 knockdowns in 2 weeks. Like we're not doing that for offensive linemen. So it's easy to just gloss over how good of a start to his career he's having. But there's not a lot to get excited about. And I said this on the rookie wall. It's not a lot to get excited about with the Jets this year because they stink. They stink. They're one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst. I think they're the absolute worst team in the league. But Mekhi Becton has been a bright spot for them. Man, is he good. I told anyone that would listen, you can't teach what this guy has. As long as he's disciplined enough to keep himself in a relatively good shape, he's a tremendous athlete. He's going to be a problem for pass rushers to deal with in the AFC East for many, many years to come. Let's see. Let's knock down some more of these. We've read most of these comments. Let's see if we can find some more that we haven't knocked down yet. This one from Captain Spartan 04 we haven't knocked down yet. He says, should the Vikings shop Harrison Smith at the trade deadline? He's probably the only player I think they'll actually have trade value on this upcoming trade deadline. It's hard when your franchise isn't in sell mode. You know, they're not rebuilding in Minnesota. They're built to win now. You know, they're not paying Kirk Cousins all this money for them to be 8-8 or for them to be selling off valuable parts. I think they feel like they're still in a really good position to win. And, you know, if they get to the trade deadline and they're 2-6, you know, they might start thinking about the future. You know, Rick Spielman loves his draft picks, 15 of them this past year. So, you know, they love their draft picks. And if they feel like Harrison Smith is a guy that's expendable and they are willing to spend some money on Harris, their other safety, Anthony Harris, then maybe. But I don't know if they're ready to move on from Dirty Harry or not quite yet. But We'll see. We'll see what kind of position they're in come the trade deadline, and if they turn into sellers or not at that deadline. I don't know if the Vikings have that temperament or not. We'll see. Nick Riley says the Eagles will go as far as Carson Wentz goes. If he plays better, they will, but if he doesn't, they won't go anywhere, he writes. You're spot on. They'll go only as far as Carson Wentz will take them. And right now, he's struggling to start this season off. Not the guy that we thought we were going to get before this season started. Captain Spartan 04 says the Eagles deserve to lose. Just saying. All they drafted of these young receivers and DBs and either gave them no time to develop or right away expected them to replace veterans. And I didn't necessarily love the guys that they drafted to begin with, but I think some of what they're doing is predicated by injuries. Don't forget that Alshon Jeffrey never, ever trust a man with two first names. That's why I don't trust him. Two first names. He's been banged up this season. They were expecting him to be healthy and contributing right away. Remember, he missed a bulk of last season, and there was debate on whether they were going to cut him at the end of training camp. And there were rumors that they were trying to move him. Well, who wants to trade for your damaged goods? He's getting up there in age. He can't stay healthy. And so they just decided to stick him in their pocket. And he hasn't played this season to this point. And so it thrusted those young guys out there. So we'll see what happens and how those young receivers all develop. Let's see. The Black Albie says, my squad's supposed to be looking at Todd Davis as a replacement for Barr. Never heard of him. Your thoughts? He's a backup linebacker in this league. He's not a starting linebacker, which is why he's available right now for you which is why he's going to get an opportunity potentially. But Todd Davis is solid. He's not a starting linebacker in this league. You're not going to be able to replace Anthony Barr. You don't replace one of the best linebackers in the game with another guy. That just doesn't happen. So you're in trouble this year, but you already know that by now, or at least you should. I tried to warn you up front. But again, whoever wants to listen to their team, when you're 0-0, you don't want to hear that your team's going to be 8-8 when you've made the playoffs. You know, the last 3 out of 4 years or whatever it's been for this Vikings football team. You don't want to hear that you're going to stink this year. Now, nobody wants to hear that, but I tried to warn you up front. Let's see. Captain Spartan 04 says 49ers might just want. Okay, we already read that one. Let's see. Captain Spartan 04 says, I don't know what color squirrels, but the ones here at college are crazy. They're coming up and eating your fries and staring at you in the face while doing it. So I've never encountered a disrespectful squirrel. Never, ever. Now, I told you, the flies of this generation are way more disrespectful than the flies from yesteryear. When I was growing up as a kid, flies were very respectful. You know, they'd hang around some dog doo-doo, and every now and again, they'd fly around your face. But if you were eating, they'd think about maybe flying around your stuff. But if you just swat it once or twice, they'd go away and go on about their business. These new generation flies, no respect. All right, they do not respect your personal space. They don't respect your belongings, and they damn sure don't respect your food. They'll climb on top of your food while you're trying to eat it. They don't care. It's a new breed, just like some of these new young boys out here, man. No code of ethics, no code of the streets. These flies are disrespectful, and it sounds like the squirrels that you're encountering are very disrespectful. I've never run into a disrespectful squirrel. I come within, 2 feet of that squirrel, and he's taking off up a tree or up the side of a wall and running on top of a roof. So I haven't encountered disrespectful squirrels, but sounds like you found one, man. That's different. Look, again, my mind has been blown. I saw a black squirrel. So disrespectful squirrels are definitely possible. I just haven't seen them. And I haven't encountered them. Nick Riley says, you know damn well who it was. Hey, look, man. I said the same thing, man. Great minds think alike. That's what a wise man once told me. I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not, but You know what time it is. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. Nick Riley says, like I said to me, the one we would move would be Barr. We just don't use him right. I thought he was going to leave in free agency. I thought he was going to go to the Jets, and they were going to allow him to do what he was probably best served to do, and that's try to get after the quarterback a little bit. That's what he did at UCLA. But, the Vikings like putting him in coverage a ton, and, I don't think they use his speed correctly. And I think that's kind of what my man Nick at Night is essentially saying. Nick Riley says, I still can't believe they didn't take Jefferson. I was hyped. You should be. I think he's going to be a really good football player. I really like him. And I think it's only a matter of time before he builds that rapport with Kirk Cousins and Kirk realizes that he's got another guy that he can throw the football to. And then maybe that offense can expand and open up a little bit. So, let's see. Captain Spartan 04 says, I really wish you get on this Steelers train this year. I told you I like the Steelers, and I expect you to make the postseason. I don't know what more you want from me. Do you want me to tell you you're going to win the division? I'd be lying to you. I don't like lying to you guys. I don't practice that. That's a bad habit that I don't like to engage in. So I like this Steelers football team. I love your defense. I think that's what's carrying you right now. Your offense has not been impressive, although Chase Claypool, I love it because, he's a Golden Domer. So I love the fact that this guy's busting up the competition right now. He barely missed honorable mention because every game he makes one play and then he goes away. So I need him to make more than one big play a game. But that was a hell of a one big play this past week on that, what was it, an 84-yard touchdown strike? He's giving me Martavis Bryant vibes with the big plays that he can provide. But he's a much bigger wide receiver than Bryant. Obviously, Bryant was a skinny mini. But Chase Claypool is a grown man. But he gives me those types of vibes with the way he can create explosive plays. The Steelers miss that. Juju Smith-Schuster can provide that at times, but he's more of an intermediate to short guy that can get run after the catch. Chase Claypool is going to be your new vertical threat. And I also like the other kid, the kick returner. That's the receiver too. He's got some explosion to him. He always seems like he's always doing some stupid shit though. But I digress. I like your Steelers. I don't like them better than Baltimore, but I think you're very capable of beating the Ravens. I know you thought that the Ravens, you were I think more scared of the Ravens than the Chiefs. I think you said you were better suited to take on the Chiefs. I think you're better suited to take on the Ravens because you know them, because that's a family member. But I digress. He says, we're really going to sneak up on people. Only concern is the running game. Connor is average and Benny got that burst but fumbles. We saw that fumble. I talked about it on last pod. That fumble shot out of his hand like a cannon. Benny Snell has to hold on to the football. I actually like James Conner, and I think Tomlin loves him. He's nothing special, but he's really all around solid. And so I think he'll continue to be a good football player for them as long as he can stay healthy. Nick Riley says, I thought Jefferson was the third best wide receiver in the draft. I don't remember exactly where I had him slotted. Somewhere in that general vicinity, though. I think he was either the second, third, or fourth best receiver. I'd like to think that I had at least two guys ahead of him, too. Maybe even three. But he was in that discussion. Once you got past the first couple of guys in the draft, the CeeDee Lamb. I know CeeDee Lamb was my number one. I think Jerry Jeudy might have been my second. Ruggs might have been my third, or it might have been flip-flop. I think Ruggs was my third, and then I think I had Jefferson as my fourth receiver in the draft. I believe that was my order. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. Captain Spartan 04 says, you're right about the disrespectful flies. I want to get one of those electric fly swappers and just carry it with me every time I go out to eat. Man, I tell you what, I'm not one for torture, but there are two insects that I always ask God. I said, why, God? Why did you feel the need to create flies and mosquitoes? what was the purpose behind those two insects there? I really don't understand the value to the human race and to animals, and maybe spiders benefit from eating the blood and drinking the blood. I don't know. Maybe there was a reason. I just don't see it. I don't understand the purpose behind those two. Flies for me they're a trigger. I go nuts when I see a fly in the house. I gotta kill it. It becomes priority number one. I told you that I missed a pod early in the season because a fly flew across my face right before I was about to go on, and I spent the next 10 minutes trying to kill it. And by the time those 10 minutes were up, I looked around and I said, I don't have time to do the pod now. So flies are something that I just can't tolerate. And I told you, it's because of their disrespectful nature. The evolution of flies and them just not giving any uffs anymore. They haven't been raised right, because their grandfathers and grandmothers, they didn't act that way. They didn't go around parading around people's food and on your shirt and in your face. They didn't go around disrespecting people the way that these new generation of flies do. And so I would actually get enjoyment out of one of those electric fly swatters. And then, like Waterboy when he said, and so what's for dessert? And then you heard the electric thing go up, squirrel. I'd love to do that to a fly. And I'm not that guy. I don't like torturing animals or insects or anything. But flies, they could get it. They could definitely get it. Legacy 2901 says Chase isn't getting that many snaps, but when he's getting them, he's making them count. The offense will figure it out soon. I agree. He's getting enough snaps. They don't want to overwork the young fella. They've got enough talent where they can rotate in and out. But as you mentioned, when he is in the game, his impact is definitely being felt. Deontay Johnson, that's his name. Thank you, Captain Spartan 04. He says Deontay Johnson or Ray McLeod, they're both returners. I was talking about Deontay Johnson. That's the speedster. That's a receiver that can really help this football team. He says Deontay is the one that breaks your ankles. Ray got the speed. I was talking about Deontay Johnson. Kevin the PRF says, agreed, the Jets are the worst. Do they jettison Darnold with a top 2 pick next offseason? I will say this much. I was never a Sam Darnold fan. And I told you it was getting late early for both him and Baker Mayfield. Mayfield did a great job of staving off any of the Baker Mayfield crowd that wanted him out in Cleveland with a big performance on the big stage on Thursday night. And I will see how he follows that up week 3 versus Washington and moving forward. And this is a big season for those guys, especially when you start looking around at Josh Allen and what he's doing in Buffalo. Your patience starts to wear thin because, Cleveland passed over Josh Allen and the Jets passed over Josh Allen as well for their respective quarterbacks. And this guy's turning out to be the best of the group. And I told anybody that would listen, he was the best of that draft. That was my guy. And so we're going to see if Darnold is able, because first of all, this is the thing. I think a lot of people love Sam Darnold. I never did. And I don't still. And I'm not the biggest fan of his, but he's got talent. I'm not going to sit here and act like the guy is a bum and he doesn't have what it takes to play in this league. And he's got a guy in Adam Gase that's a really good play designer. So, you would think that they would be better on offense. They just don't have any talent. It's hard for me to be overcritical of Darnold or Adam Gase from an offensive perspective. Now, you know how I feel about Adam Gase as a head coach, but as a leader of men, I don't think that's where he should be. But as an offensive coordinator, Adam Gase can scheme it up with the best of them. So the fact that they're struggling offensively, it tells me one thing. They don't have any talent. When Jamison Crowder is your best wide receiver, you're in trouble. I've already stated that. You're in some deep, deep doo-doo. If Jamison Crowder's your best wide receiver. And then to take it a step forward, they've got a tight end that they like, the tight end from Miami, but they don't have a lot of stuff out there. It's Jamison Crowder. It's that one tight end that I just referenced from the University of Miami. And then that's it. Le'Veon Bell has been in and out of the lineup. He doesn't get along with Adam Gase. they don't have anything out there. It's rough. They drafted the Baylor wide receiver, Denzel Mims, but he's a youngin'. You can't expect a youngin' to just come in and ball. I don't even know if he's healthy or not. Like, bottom line is, they don't have a lot out there. I said that 10 times already, but it's worth noting that it's going to be rough. I don't know if drafting a quarterback is the answer when you don't have any stuff out there. Maybe you need a guy that can elevate the play of the players around him, and maybe Sam Darnold just isn't that guy. Andres Columbus says, them cockroaches, though, had one look at me on the table at an Indian restaurant. He was asking, you gonna finish that? Now that's creepy. I'm not a cockroach guy, water bugs, or any of those dudes, man. I don't do those guys either. But I haven't had many experiences with them. The last place that we lived, we were in the woods a little bit. So, every now and again, a water bug would creep into the crib and you'd have to smash it up. But, eating at the table with a water bug staring at you, that's unsanitary. I can't do that. So, yeah, and that's really disrespectful if he's asking if you're going to finish that. That's, I can't tolerate that. But I haven't had those experiences with roaches. But wow, not on the table. Not while I'm eating. Can't have it. Can't win with it. Won't win with it. Nick Riley says, facts. Darnold isn't the answer, but I don't think you move on from him yet. They just got to get him weapons. I would say Jamar Chase is what they need. That would be a massive upgrade for them. He's a grown man, is Jamar Chase. He'd be a perfect fit in New York. They just need, I thought they had the audacity to move on from Robbie Anderson. Like, look, I don't know Robbie Anderson in the locker room. And, I know that Robbie hasn't been the cleanest off the field. But if you're talking on the field production, they couldn't afford to move on from Robbie Anderson. And I get, you didn't want to pay Robbie what he ultimately got. What did he get? 10 mil a year? What did he get? A 2-year, $20 million deal from the Panthers, I believe. But you just didn't have the ability to move on from Robbie Anderson. You weren't in a good enough spot to do that. So I think they're paying for that right now. Portlock Sono 87 says, what's good, my G? What you know about Chesapeake and the 757? Hashtag HTTWFT. Boy, that's my neck of the woods. I grew up, born and raised in Norfolk, man. What you know about Norfolk General Hospital? Come on, man. Stop playing with me, man. That's my stomping ground right there. So, I grew up in the 757. I spent the vast majority of my life there. Like I said, I just moved to Northern Virginia. So this is my first exposure outside of the 757. So, again, that's home for me, or as Mike Lord say, I'm going to tell you like the Indian told the white man, this my home. 757, that's my home. You know about Mike Lord. Come on, man. What you talking about? They don't know about Mike Lord, though. They don't know. Captain Spartan 04 says, do you think we'll ever see a coach traded again? I really think Joe Judge is a good coach and Douglas is a good GM. I want the Jets to trade for Judge because Gettleman and Gase are bad. I don't think you'll see that anytime soon. I don't think we've seen the last of that, but that's so rare. I think, what was the last time we saw a coach traded? Was that Gruden to the Bucks? I think that was the last time we saw a coach traded. It's rare. I remember that there was conversation about Tomlin being traded potentially, and that Washington was interested in trading for him, and that there was mutual respect between Tomlin and Daniel Snyder, and that had come up as a topic of discussion a couple of years ago, but it didn't materialize, obviously. I didn't think Tomlin was leaving, and I didn't think the Steelers were going to allow him to leave, but it's so rare to have a coach traded. It just doesn't happen in this league very often, and I don't think the Giants are looking to trade Joe Judge. I don't think the Jets are looking to acquire Joe Judge, and so I just don't think you're going to see anything like that materialize. A lot of times with teams, they're more inclined to just fire their coach and hire a new one versus giving up draft capital to go and get a guy. And then you also have to have a team that is interested in trading away their coach, which, again, highly unlikely in today's NFL. Anyhow, Captain Spartan 04 says, he says, the Jets also seem to go back to the same well over and over again when it comes to the draft. It's either an LSU player, a USC quarterback, a defensive lineman, or some kind of Ohio State freak athlete. They've done all of those things throughout the course of their time, and it hasn't boded well for them. And they just, I can't quite put my finger on why they haven't worked, other than their coaches haven't been the best. I liked Todd Bowles, though. I thought he got a raw deal in New York. I mean, anytime you can win 10 games with Fitty at quarterback, that should buy you at least an additional 3 to 4 years. That's insane. He never really got a fair shot in New York. And if he's still there, Jamal Adams is still there, and I think that defense could have been a top-notch unit if Todd Bowles was still there. But they went to Gase, and it's been a shit show ever since. So we'll see what they decide to do. Kevin the PRF says, stay away from North Carolina. Down here, we're getting those Florida flying cockroaches. One fluttered and landed on my work entrance door. I just called in late. One of the most frightening experiences as a kid was one of those flying cockroaches. I remember, I want to say it was a water bug, but I haven't ever seen a water bug take flight. Maybe they do fly. But I was going to take a bath as a kid. I had to be like maybe 8 years old. And one crawled up through the drainage in the tub as I was about to get in, and he flew across my face. And you know, when you're a kid, you don't have any bass in your voice. I screamed like a little bitch. And my dad gets up running like, what's wrong? And he sees he was so mad at me because I was screaming over an insect. I was so terrified. I mean, could you imagine 8 years old about to take a bath, and out of the drain comes a flying cockroach, man. Scared me half to death. I'd never seen one before. It was the first time. Scared me half to death. Anyway. Oh, man. Portlock Sano 87 says, oh, man, you just made my day, my G. Buddha Brothers. What y'all know about that? Buddha. We bring in that. Ha. We bring in that. Buddha. They don't know nothing about that, man. That's some 757 flavor for you right there. 103 Jams. You made my day. He said, you definitely from round the way. Keep it up, brother. Love your channel. All day, man. 757 repping all day, every day. 2 up, 2 down. You know how it is. You know how it go. So anyway, that's going to do it for social media maneuvers. All right. So now let's get to some garbage time. And we're going to first start by sending out our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Hall of Fame running back Gail Sayers, who passed away today, I believe at the age of 75. I think he was 75. Let's check that just to be sure. Gail Sayers, let's see. I want to get this right. He deserves that. 77. 77 years old, man. Oh, man. What a player he was. A guy that was really ahead of his time. He was special in an era where guys didn't move like that. And he didn't play a ton of football. You know, that's the crazy part. When you go look at his NFL career, it was short. It was very brief. But man, was he a shooting star. And he could run. And he could make guys miss. And I always remember that clip of him saying, all I need is some I think it was like 40, a couple inches of daylight, and that was so true. The guy could run. He could run and he could make guys miss. And again, in an era where guys just wore leather helmets and, 1 bar face masks and they just ran in a straight line, he was juking and jiving and breaking dudes off something proper back when breaking dudes off something proper wasn't even the thing to do. They weren't even allowing people to slam dunk basketballs in those days. And he was breaking dudes off something proper. He was before his time, man. He was a guy that definitely could have played in this era of football. And may he rest in paradise. Gail Sayers gone at the age of 77. So, anyhow, let's get to Thursday night football. We're going to preview that game. And a lot of you been shitting on this game. And I don't know why. I guess because it's Dolphins and Jags. I get that. But these aren't your uncle's Jaguars, okay? These are a better group here, all right? But I got a super chat. I'm going to take this real quick. Key himself, thank you for the super chat, who writes, we got to get rid of Apke. He gets beat every play. He does not get beat on every play. Don't over-exaggerate. We don't have to get rid of Troy Apke. He's learning. I've stressed this already. I've seen your tweets. You know, I saw your jokes. Okay, as a wise man once told me, I hear you. I see your jokes on Twitter. Okay, about Troy Apke. Yeah, he's making some mistakes. He's young. He's gonna make some mistakes. Again, if he continues to repeat these same mistakes, which he hasn't done, they've been different mistakes. Not a lot of playing time for this guy. Even in college at Penn State, he only had 1 year of starting experience at Penn State before he got drafted into the league. This is his first year starting in Washington, even though he's in his third season. So, again, lack of experience is what you have to point to a guy with a guy like Troy Apke. And so I'm going to have patience with him, just like I'm going to have patience with the entire roster. You know, we're a young team. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to lose games because of our youth. That's why Ron Rivera has stressed to you guys, it's a process, all right? It's a process. It's Ron's plan. Ron's plan. I'm not on board with getting rid of Troy Apke just yet. Anyhow, let's take a look at this Thursday night game. Dolphins at Jaguars. Dolphins come into the game at 0-2. Meanwhile, the Jaguars come in at 1-1, almost found themselves at 2-0. With a come-from-behind victory versus the Tennessee Titans, but it wasn't to be. They fell short 33-30, but man, have the Jacksonville Jaguars been impressive. I talked about them last week on the NFL's peak performers. That was a hell of a win in week 1. They turn around and follow that up with an, you could argue, even more impressive victory or performance, even though it resulted in a loss at Tennessee. They were down big early in that ball game, rallied back, tied the game at 30, and ultimately fell 33-30. But Gardner Minshew, he's gaining my respect. As each week passes, I become a bigger and bigger supporter of Gardner Minshew. You look at the supporting cast around him. We talked about the lack of weapons and talent in New York with the Jets. It's the direct opposite. And I've said this a million times, and I know a lot of people don't respect the Jaguars, but you need to respect their general manager, David Caldwell. I've said this a million times. There are about a handful of teams that just know how to draft. They get talented football players, and it doesn't matter what point of the draft, first, second, third, fourth, or fifth round, they're getting talented football players. I talk about Cincinnati and how they acquire a bunch of talent. I talk about Dallas and how they draft really well. And I always talk about Jacksonville. Nobody drafts for their particular team better than Baltimore does. They have the identity of what a Baltimore Raven looks like, and they go out and get that guy. But if you're talking about talent, I don't know if there's a team out there that identifies talent better than the Jacksonville Jaguar and always seems to be in a great spot to acquire it. They go out this year and they get Laviska Shenault. I told anybody that would listen, this guy's going to be really good in this league. And he didn't run well at the combine. He was dealing with an injury that required some surgery, and everybody was turned off by Laviska Shenault. And all he's done, and they got a steal in the second round, and all he's done is come in and been versatile. They're handing it to him. They're tossing it to him out of the backfield. They're throwing him the football. He's running Wildcat. He's getting at least 10 touches a game, or at least targets. And whether it's 5 passes, this week he had 10 touches, I believe. 5 rushes, 5 catches. All right, last week he had a touchdown. This is a guy that they're going to use. I think DJ Chark is the number 1 wide receiver in this league. I've been so impressed with DJ Chark. All right. I keep wanting to call this receiver. Where's my phone? I gotta figure out this guy's name. I keep wanting to call their receiver Cecil Shorts. It's not Cecil Shorts that I'm thinking of. And this guy that I'm thinking about is really good. I'm going to tell you his name here in a second because he's been balling, all right, for like the last 2 years. And this guy's really good too. So Keelan Cole, I keep wanting to call this man Cecil Shorts. I'm going to remember his name now. Keelan Cole is a really good wide receiver in this league. I really like me some Keelan Cole. So now you're talking about going 3 deep, not to mention Chris Connolly out there at receiver, who is a guy that you don't have to rely on, but every now and again you throw him a bone. They've got talent at the wide receiver position. This James Robinson, rookie running back out of Illinois State, undrafted, he's the real deal. I talked about him last week on the rookie wall. He's on the rookie wall again this week. This guy's talented, man. They've got stuff around Gardner Minshew, and he does a tremendous job of distributing the football. Everybody gets a taste. Hey, you want one? Hey, I got you. Hey, you stick around. I'm going to get you one later. He makes sure everyone's involved. This is a fun team to watch. And defensively, they're still trying to figure some things out. Remember, mass exodus. When you think about the 2017 team that went to the AFC Championship game, they were loaded on defense. A.J. Boye, Jalen Ramsey, what's my man that got traded to Baltimore? Calais Campbell, Dante Fowler Jr., Telvin Smith. All these guys were on that defense. None of those guys are on this defense. So they are trying to, and Yannick Ngakoue, don't forget about him. He's gone as well. They're trying to rebuild this thing, and they've done it through the draft, but they're all young players. You know, Josh Allen and my man from LSU just got his first sack of his career. They got him in the first round out of LSU. Man, he's got a funny name. It'll come to me. But he just got his first sack of his career on Sunday in week 2. I love what C.J. Henderson, super intelligent C.J. Henderson is out there doing at the cornerback position. They've got some really good stuff out there. And when they put it together on the defensive side of the football, look out. And Miles Jack has been a man possessed early in this season. I like Jacksonville, and this is going to be a fun game because Miami is much improved. I mean, they are a different team, light years better than where they were this time last year, where they were the laughingstock of the league and everybody thought they were going to go 0-16. They're competitive this year. Ryan Fitzpatrick, look, say what you want, and I've always said this. We're going to miss Fitty Fitty when he's gone. He is a National Football League treasure, okay? Steps to the podium, dripping with chains. Man, he was dripping last year. He was having fun with Deshaun Jackson's shirt on and chains and whatnot. He's a National Football League treasure, and he's so much fun to watch because he's so damn competitive. Yeah, he may throw 3 interceptions, but he could throw 4 touchdown passes too. And this is going to be a fun one. I think this could easily be a 34-30 shootout in this game. This could be fun. And we could see some turnovers. We could see some big plays. Mike Gesicki had his best game of his career. 8 catches, a buck and some change. I think he had like 130 some odd yards and a touchdown. He had a one-hand grab that was ridiculously sick. They're fixing up some stuff. They're cooking up some stuff in Miami. All right. They got some talent, man. Again, it's going to take time. Again, when you're a young team with a young coach and you're trying to figure some things out, it takes time. But he's starting to get this team moving in the direction that he wants to in Brian Flores. I think this game is going to be a lot better than a lot of you think. I think the Jaguars are going to win, but I think this is going to be a fun football game. A lot better than a lot of you guys out there think. So, I got another super chat from Key himself again. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Key himself, who writes, Gardner playing so well, Jags can pass on Trevor. And that was the thing that struck me as so odd. And I was guilty of this too. I cannot tell a lie. I fell into the trap of, the Jags are going to stink. Gardner Minshew isn't the guy. And they're going to be drafting in the top 5, maybe top 3, possibly number 1 overall, and they're going to be looking for a quarterback. Is that so? And we talked about this on the pod already. Is that so? Because their head coach said, everybody's already firing me. What I got to lose? I don't exist. And so he's come out, had this team playing with a sense of urgency. And Gardner Minshew's like, hey, everybody's already relegated me to backup duties. I can't be a starter in this league. What I got to lose? And James Robinson's like, look, I was undrafted. I ain't got shit to lose. And then you just get this collection of guys that are out here playing their asses off. And in the case of Doug Marrone, coaching his ass off. And I've always liked Doug Marrone as a coach. He may be a hard ass, but he gets it done. And they're playing some good ball in Jacksonville. And I think after Thursday night's game, who would have thought that after 3 weeks of football, the Jacksonville Jaguars would be sitting there at 2-1. And I think that's going to be the case after Thursday night football. So with that being said, I'm going to glide to the side, man. I appreciate you guys joining me. This was fun. I always enjoy chopping it up with you guys. And we'll do this every Wednesday where we'll open up the floor to you guys and I'll allow you guys to hijack the show essentially. So looking forward to that again. Friday's show, we'll be breaking down week 3's matchups. I'll give you my picks, my money picks of the week. And I got to have my money drop. I got to have my money drop. I'm almost tempted, though, to leave the money drop out of the matters right now because of how well I've started this season off. I'm afraid if I bring the money back, I might try to go south with my picks. So I'm gonna wait until I have a bad week to bring the money drop back. I think I've made that decision in my mind. I like where things are going right now. Fresh off of another 13-3 campaign, your boy is 26-6 to start this season off. Who's sniffing the kid? Not none of you out there. But we'll do that tomorrow. But I'll see you before then because we got a Thursday night football game to attend to. And if you're a Washington football fan, we've got a live show tonight at 8:30. So you'll see this face up in your space at some point, whether it's Thursday night football overtime or Washington football nightly. You'll see me again before Friday's podcast. But if you don't, remember, subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Also, remember to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Hit that like button if you haven't already done so for the kids. Show some love. And also remember that if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. And let me remind you guys of this. Weekly pick'em pool, man. Get you some. If you think you can best the kid, prove it. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your picks in and see if you can't get you some bread in the process. I'm 0-2 right now. And, the thing that's killing me is that I've gone 13-3 twice and I got no money to show for it yet. That is absolutely driving me insane. I've got to get my hands on some of this weekly pick'em pool bread. And week 3 looks like a real ripe week for the picking. But, hey, if you think you're capable, come and get some. Weekly pick'em pool on the website, LouieTeeNetwork.net. The link is down below in the description of this and every video that I do. Go to the site, click on the LTN exclusives tab, go down to the weekly pick'em pool and make your week 3 selections. Pay your entry fee of $7 and see if you got what it takes to come away with the bread. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, as I glide to the side and allow you to continue and pick up where you left off on your afternoon activities. I didn't mean to intervene or to interrupt. You can go back to your regularly scheduled programming. I'm going to get out of here. You guys, take it easy. Stay safe. I appreciate you. Have a good one.